Down Vishupad, Paramahamsa Prabhupada, Asudera Sudushi Shima, His Divine Grace, Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. For Prahladananda, all glories to the Son of Bhakti, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Can you send it to me? Yes.
Om Agara Devanandasya Garanjana Salakaya.
It's very difficult to find. I'll send you the link. It's very difficult to find.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Jam Sajivam Sarvaikam Sarvadutam Prajanam Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Karate Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanta Mosute Kapakantana Gauraki Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudevi Pranamani Hari Priye Vanchakavadurgascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Padidam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
I'm going to read from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 18. Beginning with text number 70. Adyeshite tya imam dharmam sambadam aviyo jnana jagnena tenaham ishtak swamiti memiti. And declare he who studies the sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. Text 71. Sharavan anasuyascha srinuyadapiyo nara sopi mukta subhalokan prapnuyat punya karmanam. The one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions obtains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. Purport. In the 67th chapter, 67th verse of this chapter, the Lord explicitly forbade the Gitas being spoken to those who are envious of the Lord. In other words, Bhagavad Gita is to the devotees only. But it so happens that sometimes the devotee of the Lord will hold open class, and in that class not all the students are expected to be devotees. Why do such persons hold open class? It's explained here that although everyone is a devotee, still there are many men who are not envious. Not everyone is a devotee. Still there are many men who are not envious of Krishna. They have faith in him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If such persons hear from a bona fide devotee about the Lord, the result is that they become at once free from all sinful reactions, and after that attain to the planetary system where all righteous persons are situated. Therefore, simply by hearing Bhagavad Gita, even a person who does not try to be a pure devotee attains the results of righteous activities. Thus, a pure devotee of the Lord gives everyone a chance to become free from all sinful reactions and to become a devotee of the Lord. Generally, those who are free from sinful reactions, those who are righteous, very easily take to Krishna consciousness. The word punya karmanam is very significant here. This refers to the performance of great sacrifices, like the Ashwamedha Yagya mentioned in the Vedic literature. Those who are righteous and performing devotional service, but who are not pure, can obtain the planetary system of the pole star, or Dhruvaloka, where Dhruva Maharaj is presiding. He is a great devotee of the Lord, and he has a special planet, which is called the pole star. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shrivadi Paschatya Desha. The first one, text 70, Krishna had said, Adyesha Te Chaya Imam Dharmam Sampradam Aviyam Jnana Jagnana Tenaham Ishtak Swam Iti Memati. That the one who studies the sacred conversation of ours, he worships me by his intelligence. So we have intelligence. Unfortunately, our intelligence is not exactly pure, as practically everyone in this material world, or anyone who's in the material world, has impure intelligence. So we have to worship Krishna with our intelligence in order to get free from our misconceptions. In other words, employ our intelligence in Krishna consciousness. And that's what Bhagavad Gita does. Tad buddhiyas, tad atmanas, tad nishtas, tad prayanaha, kajatnyapana avritim, jnana nirdukta kalmasha. One's intelligence, one's mind, one's faith, one's refuge are all situated in the Lord. One becomes cleansed of all misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus attains to the supreme destination. In other words, everyone's problem, although we may think some of this person's good, this person's bad, actually everyone in the material world is bad. You can't say that someone who's a criminal in a jail, they're actually nice people, but they just happen to wind up in jail. Generally speaking, people wind up in jail because they're criminals. Similarly, we're all here because we're criminals. Now, amongst the criminals, amongst themselves, they give them honor. They give them degrees. They give them, he's a nice criminal. Put them in the Hall of Fame of criminals. Give Olympic gold medals. But everyone here is more or less a thief. tried to steal from Krishna. So this intelligence is how to become a good citizen again of the spiritual world. So you can get out of the prison. But unfortunately, most people don't even know that they're in a prison. How many people you meet on the street? How many people do we know? What about ourselves? Do we really know we're in a prison? That this body is a prison? As I said before, we wake up in the morning, and we look in the mirror, and we ask the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all? And generally, the same answer is there for everyone, that we think that what we see in the mirror is the absolute truth. That image, that deity in the mirror is the person we're supposed to render unalloyed, uninterrupted service to. And indeed, that's what everyone in the material world is doing, rendering unalloyed, uninterrupted service to their deity, this material body. Unfortunately, the deity is actually a prison. It's keeping us in a very limited conception and a very limited experience of the threefold miseries. And yet we're in love with it, and we'll serve it to the end of our existence in this body until we get the next body, and we'll serve it in the same way, with the same love and affection, the same determination. This life, I'm going to make the most blissful life of sense gratification that's possible. I'm going to perfect the art of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and there won't be any limit to the amount of happiness I get from it. And 8,400,000 species of life. Or as Prabhu said, as I mentioned before, Prabhu was coming back in Los Angeles from his doctor's appointment. And on the way back, he saw one title of a movie. He didn't go in to see it, by the way. But the title of the movie was, Is There Sex After Death? You looked confused. Is there sex after death? That was the title of the movie. So Prabhu came back, gave his usual lecture to the devotees. And during the lecture he said, when you go out on Bhakti Fusion today, when you meet people, you should tell them they don't have to worry, that there is sex after death. And 8,400,000 species of life. And if they hear that, they won't be afraid of death anymore. So everyone is absorbed in this material. Actually, what it is just a perverted relationship of Radha and Krishna. Everyone is imagining when they take a body, I mean, because we're in Kali Yuga, so in previous yugas, there used to be two genders, male and female. A few other people had some other situation. But now in America, the last count had 72 different genders. That was just the beginning. Very imaginative. In any case, generally speaking, there's only two. There's the Purusha and the Prakriti. And we're imagining ourselves to be Purusha. And sometimes we're imagining ourselves to be, we are Prakriti, but everyone in the material world is imagining themselves to be Purusha. They just have a different strategy of how to load it over, that's all. But generally speaking, Radha and Krishna, then you actually have the real Purusha, Krishna. We're just imitation Purushas, enjoyers. So we have Romeo and Juliet. We have Tarzan and Jane. We have Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. Everyone is imitating Krishna, Radha and Krishna, and trying to have a good time while doing it. And indeed, people think they're actually going to, in the midst of all the suffering, they think this is the real happiness that exists. That's the only happiness they think that exists. So that's called less intelligent, that's all. there is some happiness there. Govinda Das says it's one drop of water in the desert. So it's a drop of water. If you're in the desert, you appreciate any water people get, anything you can get. But some intelligence begins with understanding that we're not this body. If people can understand that there's a different, they just understand that they're the soul. They're the ones who have the consciousness. The body doesn't produce consciousness. We ourselves, the soul within the body, is producing the consciousness, our experience. And now our experience is quite limited. As Prahladananda said, Matirana Krishna Parataksadova Vito Vipadyeta Grihavratanam Adanta Gobira Vishitam Tamizram Punak Punastarvita Charvanana. People don't know that. So matir means where we put our consciousness. People don't know that there's an alternative. When they hear when religion is presented to them, there is no conception of God. Therefore, there is really no alternative. They say Jesus Christ. They say Jesus Christ is God or something. And if you worship him, then you'll maybe one day you'll get nailed to a cross too. Not a very exciting. I become a good Christian in my next lifetime, they'll nail me too to the cross. Because they're worshipful deities, supposedly God, and God is so unfortunate that ordinary people would nail him to a cross and he suffers for everyone. And if you pick up the cross and you follow him, he also one day will nail you to the cross. He died for everyone's sins. Not a very exciting, a very blissful conception of God. God is so is so lacking in qualities and ability that he has to suffer in order for other people to enjoy. What kind of conception of God is that? So and the other ones say that, I don't know what, I'm not so familiar with all the religions, but even the nice religions, they say that eventually, if you're really a good, say Mormon, then eventually you'll get a universe. Would you really want to rule it over a universe? Everyone's fighting with each other all the time to become Brahma or whatever you are, and you become the head of the universe. And you have all these people trying to. You have Rakashipus you got to deal with. You have so many negative people you have to deal with. The whole world is full of negative people, envious of each other, and you become the head of it, and everyone's envious of you. And then if you're really good at dealing with envious people, they give you 2 universes to deal with 2 batches of envious people. And that's perfection of life. You get more and more envious people to deal with. Everyone trying to become God, get rid of you. And you become so expert, you can deal with all these people and survive. 311 trillion, 40 billion years, you're fighting off all the envious people. So these conceptions are not very intelligent because the very fact is that we're not the body. And it doesn't matter what body we have, it has no effect on us whatsoever. We're exactly the same person we are when we were 5 years old, when this body was 5, and that we are now when we're 100, whatever we've become. We'll be exactly the same person. Maybe our intelligence hopefully is increased, but for most people it hasn't increased at all. It's only increased because of a contact with, as it says here, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is presented by someone, Srila Prabhupada, who actually knows what's in the Bhagavad Gita, who actually has realized that he's not his body, that he's a spiritual soul, and therefore when he says he's not this body, he's not just talking theoretically, he's also talking from the platform of experience. Therefore, even that amount of knowledge, as Krishna says, is liberating. Vayam dvitiya vibhineshitasya isharapatasya viparyam smriti. The whole world is full of fear. Everyone is fear. That's our most prominent emotion in the material world. And we have our families, we have our wife, we have our children, we have our house, as it says, all to protect us from death. That's what the most fearful thing is. But Matirana Krishna Paratatsatova Mito Vibhadyeta Griha Vratana. Matira, we're putting our consciousness in what? Not in most people are not putting their consciousness in Krishna, but they're trying to do the same thing we're trying to do. It's not that because we're devotees, we don't have any fear. Fear is a good thing to have some fear. If you don't have any fear, you're a fool. How many of us, when we cross the street, even though we're devotees, I have no fear. I cross the street, I'm blindfolded. Come and hit me, I don't care. No, of course, this body is an opportunity to utilize, to get out of fear, get out of material experience. But in the meantime, because we're fearful, therefore we make arrangements, we have family life, we have, even as brahmacharis, we take prasadam, we go to sleep, we do so many different things because we have to maintain the body. And everyone's afraid. The Gulf of Hormuz is closed, oil's not coming, the farmers aren't planting anything. Next year there won't be any prasadam. That way our leaders keep us in fear all the time. We're already afraid, but if you read the newspaper, they don't say, don't worry about it. Everything's going to just chant Hare Krishna, everything Krishna will supply. No, they say, we the leaders are working it out, but we're sending over all our airplanes, we're going to kill all of them, so don't worry about it. Even they're 5 miles underneath the ground, we'll get some super missile to seek them out and kill the last one. And you'll be happy. That should make everyone happy. Free from fear. That little mosquito coming to hit you. Oh my God, we killed all the Iranians, but that little mosquito killed me. It got through my defenses. So everyone's afraid, And the scientists, they promise, don't worry, we'll kill all your enemies. He's my enemy, we've killed him all. And as far as old age, they're working on it. They almost have the pill. Unfortunately, the person who almost invented the pill that would prevent us from old age, disease, and death died. Someone else will take up this where he left off. So the point is, if we want to get free from Matirana Krishna Parataksatova, now most people, they think that if they study a lot, they learn a lot, then they'll actually figure out how to become happy. Other people think they're going to take advice from other people who are, quote, successful. They're compared to the Svavitra Hostra Karar Samstuta Purusha Pashu Niyat Karma Patapetota Jatanamagadagaja. The men who are like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, they glorify the bigger hog, the bigger dog, the bigger camel, and the bigger ass. Now, the purport Prabhu doesn't say, he says they're animals in what way? He says, the dog, because you get your degree in college or whatever you got, and then you go door to door and you beg, please, I'm a good dog. I got trained up to be a good dog. I went to the best college where they trained up the most sophisticated dogs. I'm not a regular dog. I'm a French poodle. Look at my tail. My God. They worked on it for 3 hours.
They have a dog in Bologna, outside of Bologna. It's actually called Dog University.
For dogs.
That's actually I'm a good dog, I've been trained up to be submissive. Whatever you tell me, I'm going to do. I'm going to go, and at the end of the day, I'll wag my tail to show how happy I am. But you gave me a job as a good dog. Good dog. Swavid. Vid means one who eats stool. Some people eat anything nowadays. When I grew up, when we go to the grocery store, I was amazed to see that in the grocery store they had cans of chocolate-covered ants. You never saw that? Oh, they have. It's still gourmet. Chocolate-covered caterpillars. Oh, you eat the chocolate. I mean, I didn't try it out, so I can't. But they have that. Oh, what is caviar? Fish eggs. Does anyone want to eat fish eggs? Little fish eggs? How? And spend thousands of dollars on it. Some people eat anything. They say the Chinese will eat anything that crawls on the ground except for a tank. Anything that flies in the sky except for a kite. Everything that swims in the ocean except for a Chinese boat, junk. They'll eat anything, anytime. So they're considered to be like the hog, will eat anything. And Rahostra, the camel, Ustra. Vara means actually the Vara. So it's Vidvara, that's the pig. And Ustra means the camel. The camel, he has a big, big neck, and he is able to reach up and eat the twigs on the trees, which have thorns. And when he eats the twigs with the thorns on it, so he punctures his mouth and blood comes and he drinks his own blood.
Oh. It's so tasty.
But his blood is really tasty. So you think, wow, this is fantastic. I never had such a nice twig in my life. It's so sweet and juicy. So that's compared to the materialist who drinks his own blood through sense gratification. He enjoys life by drinking his own blood. Because one drop of semen is 60 drops of blood. It's in Ayurveda it says that eating converts, when you eat some food, it converts into child converts into rakta, blood converts into muscle converts into fat converts into Maj, which is bone marrow converts into bone converts into reproductive fluid, artha, and artha is female reproduction and smell. Anyhow, Sukra. That's Venus. Sukra and Artha. And then that Artha and Sukra, they convert into Ojas. And Ojas is the effulgence. So if you notice people in the street, especially around here when they're in a bar and they're drinking, you notice they don't look very effulgent. They look like the lights went out. Because they're losing all their effulgence. That's which is ojas. They're losing all their ojas, and therefore they're susceptible to anything. Ghosts, because there's no protection. Ojas is like a protection, the first line of defense for the soul, for the material body, at least. And so there's no protection. So their minds are like anywhere in the material world. There's nothing holding their mind down. There's nothing holding keeping their tejas and their prana. There's nothing keeping their energy or their intelligence or their mind in their body anymore. It's just like all over the universe. And therefore, they're less and less intelligent. So these are the persons who are leaders of the material world, those who are the biggest rascals, the persons who are the biggest camels, asses, hogs, and dogs. These are the ones who are leading society down to the darkest regions of existence, and people are trying to take help from them. They're the example. They're the ones that, how many devotees do they write up in the newspaper every day? How many devotees do they come and ask, what is your position on the Iraq war? What is your solution? I remember one time I was saw a video. They were going around asking everyone, who is God? What is he like? So they were asking all the major leaders of religious movements, who is God? So they asked the Catholics, the bishops, and the cardinals, this interviewer, and they said, God is love. They asked the Protestants, God is peace. Then they asked devotees, and then when the devotees started to explain that God's a person, they said, oh, thank you very much. They went on to the next. In other words, no one had, except for the devotees, had any idea who God is. And these are the people who are the leaders of the society. And we're wondering, why are things going wrong? Why are bad things happening to good people? Because there are no good people. That's why. Everyone's getting exactly what they deserve. And there's a combination. There's a combination of asking others and trying to do it ourselves. So there's some good advice, how to breathe properly or whatever. But as far as the ultimate goal of life, the only ones who have any idea of what the goal of life actually is, namely Krishna, and knows and can give step by step wherever people are at, is right there in the Bhagavad Gita. The only real intelligence that's being distributed in this universe right now, at least on this where we are, is by our distributing transcendental literature. Otherwise, people are just losing their intelligence. Tatas chanudinam dharma, sattvam socham dayashama, balena kalira rajan, nakshaya balam smriti. Day after day, tatas chanudinam dharma. People are losing the clue of life, dharma. What is to be done and what's not to be done. Tatas chanudinam dharma, satyam socham dayashama. They're losing truthfulness. The real truth they have no conception of, nor are anyone's giving them. I mean, when people put out a newspaper, when they have television, when they have internet, when you go to college, they're declaring that what we're saying is true. How many politicians, for instance, go online when they give the speech and before the speech says, my dear fellow citizens, I'm about to just lie to you like a drunken sailor. So please don't believe anything I say because it's all one big lie. No, they present themselves as if they're telling the truth, although everyone knows they're lying. They're so deceitful. They're so bewildered that although everyone says, yeah, right. And they hope some fool in the audience, few fools will actually believe what they say. So truthfulness is going down. If you go on the street, you ask people, can you give a donation? Generally, the first thing they say is, I have no money. And you say, well, just give anything, give a dime, whatever. They say, give $1, a euro. And you say, I'll check and see our euro. And you look at them and they're trying to go through the 50s and the 100s. Trying to find the smallest thing possible. I have no money. And they say, what's in your wallet? Oh, it's not mine, it's my aunt's. The first thing they add in their mouths is a lie. So, and cleanliness, Prabhu says they wash their hands after they eat, a week later, they think they're being clean.
I just saw a chart where it says all the countries in Europe, how often do they shower? The only country in all of Europe that showers daily is Italy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Strange.
I
didn't make the chart.
Could you imagine?
All the northern part was all red, which means like 10%.
what?
They did some swabs throughout England to find out what the culture is, the walls and the subway stations everywhere. They found out that 99% of England is covered with stool.
To see
To see what's on the
bacteria.
because people, they pass stool, they never wash their hands. So everywhere you touch in England, it's just you're touching stool. Not even your own stool. Millions of people's stool. I mean, look at the culture. The dog licks his behind, and then he comes up and licks you, and you think it's love. Oh, Fido. Oh, so sweet.
Someday kiss them even.
What's that?
Someday even kiss the dog.
So Socham Daya, mercy. People nowadays, I remember when I was 7 years old or 5 years old, there was some scandal that someone was on the street and they were being attacked, and they were screaming to the neighbors, please say. And the neighbors, what they did is they just closed the windows and didn't have to hear the scream. Didn't call the police, it was too much trouble. Didn't want to get involved. No mercy whatsoever. Shama and patience. People have no patience whatsoever. There was a report, someone in Texas, they were stopped at a traffic light and the light turned green. So the person behind, they honked their horn to indicate that the light is green. So the person became so agitated in the front, he took his rifle and shot the man in the back for agitating.
Texas.
Texas. No patience whatsoever. And Kalena Balira Rajan, by the strong force of Kali Yuga, Nakshatranam Bailam Sriti. So people's bodily strength they're losing their bodily strength and their memory. As one man was talking to his friend about this fabulous, and their wives were cooking in the kitchen. And so this man was talking about this fabulous restaurant that they went to, but he couldn't remember its name. And so he asked his friend to give him a hint, and maybe he'd be able to remember what the name was. So he said, well, I can remember that the name was something about a flower. And the hint I need is something about a flower, and it's red, and it smells very nice. So the man said, maybe it's Rose. And the man said, you're right, Rose. Hey, Rose, what was that name of the restaurant we went to yesterday? In other words, his wife was named Rose. Couldn't remember her name. So this is strong force of Kali Yuga, and it's going on, day after day. It's going on. Things will simply get worse. The only hope is the distribution of transcendental literature. Because Prabhu said, what will our 3-minute conversation with them do? But if they get one book, and then someone actually has an opportunity to read it, they'll actually get some intelligence. They'll wake up. Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. Waking up means to wake up with intelligence, to see things as they actually are, rather than being falsely being fed. That there is no God, there's nothing in control. We have to take shelter of the so-called leaders in modern society, Andaya Tandira Pigiyamas Tepish Tantra Rugami Bada. They're blind and they're claiming that they're leaders. Therefore, when Prabhu was talking to one professor of Hinduism at a big university in America, Srūpa Damodar Prabhu was there at that time, who's later become Srūpa Damodar Maharaj, a professor, PhD in chemistry. So, the professor of Hinduism, prestigious university in America, asked Prabhupada, the first question was, Swamiji, can you tell me what's the definition of Hinduism? So Prabhupada said, you're a professor of Hinduism at a big university, you have your PhD and postgraduate in Hinduism, and you're asking me what's the definition of Hinduism? So he turned to Srūpa Damodar Prabhu and said, Srūpa Damodar, this man's a professor at the University of Hinduism, and he's asking me what's the definition of Hinduism. So what does that mean? So Srūpa Damodar said, he's a cheater, Prabhupada. He's a cheater. So they're all, people are all cheaters. And this so-called leaders are all cheaters. They don't know what the path of salvation is. Even the so-called religious people, they don't know what the path of peace and harmony is. And yet the very people who create all the wars and all the friction, all the problems and the poverty, they're the ones tasked with solving the problem. So how is it possible? People who are causing the problem are given the task of making the solution to it. The solution was that they shouldn't have caused the problem in the first place. That's the only solution. Because everything they do just creates more problems. And the real problems, old age, disease, and death, they don't even talk about. As I said before, they don't know how to solve those problems. But they are figuring out how to kill us all as quickly as possible. Because we're breathing their air. And our very shadows take away their sunlight. So we should voluntarily give up our lives so that the real heroes in this universe can prosper. So this is all madness. And the only solution is if people actually get a chance to hear the holy name and to read something, even something that they're not their body. I saw on the internet, there was one man who was being interviewed about all the mistakes in the Bible. And I immediately turned off the interview because I was listening to the interview. And then when he said, yeah, in the Bible, there's even some crazy people who believe in reincarnation. This guy's useless. Has no knowledge whatsoever. So that's what we're faced with. But this Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavad Gita, is as brilliant as the light. Krishna Sudharma Upagate. Krishna Dhamma. Yeah, Dhamma is the word. Krishna Dhamma Upagate. Jnana Dharma Jabi Saha. Kalo Nashta Vishamesha Purarnarko Dunoditaha. So this knowledge is like the sun, and it can actually illuminate people if they just listen, if they hear it. And therefore they'll have a different direction in life. They'll understand they're being cheated by all these rascals who don't even know that they're not their body. And if they know that some of them know they're not their body, they don't really know how to take shelter of the super soul. They don't know that there's a supreme person within our heart giving us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And that everyone in the universe is dependent on it. They don't know that, and therefore they never take shelter of the supreme person. When I asked the Prabhu one time, I said, if Krishna wants me to do something, or Krishna doesn't want me to do something, how do I know what Krishna wants me to do? And Prabhu started to laugh. He said, you won't know what to do. He said, you'll do the wrong thing. And everyone else started to laugh too. And then Prabhu looked at me very compassionately. He didn't want to get me upset. But people don't know what's to be done, what's not to be, because they don't read the Bhagavad Gita. They don't hear from saints. They don't know what the super soul is telling them. And therefore, all they're hearing is all these voices from all these so-called leaders in their lives, since time immemorial, telling them to do the wrong thing. Eat like a hog, sleep like a bear, have sex like a pigeon, and defend yourself like a tiger. That's what all people are hearing all day long. That's their guides. That's their authority. And they're following their authority, because everyone has to follow an authority, and the whole society is going to hell. But luckily nowadays, they're going to hell in a jet plane. You don't have to take a car, or they get first class accommodation on a jet plane. It takes them right to Yamara in a few seconds. The Yamadutas come and they bring you right there, and you can get your animal body right away. You don't have to wait. And that's the future of society, unless the devotees take compassion. And that compassion, it's not when we go out there and we say, oh, I'm so compassionate. No, first of all, we'd have to be compassionate to ourselves, because we were in their position just a little while ago. And if we don't take shelter of this Krishna consciousness movement, and we don't actually preach and try to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, we may wind up, out in Terra Molino, also sometime, in one of those bars, with Vishnu Maharaja and his hat coming through. Oh yeah, I used to do this. I had a name, I can't remember what it was. It's something unusual. Das or Dasi, I can't remember my last one. I can't remember my first one.
And sometimes you meet people. I was a devotee once.
So we should be, first of all, compassionate to ourselves, and then we should be compassionate to others, because without being compassionate to others, we won't be able to be compassionate to ourselves either, because that's the way we'll actually make advancement towards, understanding things properly.
We were just mentioning that sometimes you meet, if we're not careful, you may be back. I was thinking about once we were on the Padayatra in the northern part of Italy, along the lakeside. My wife was distributing books and went into a hotel, because we always go to the hotel manager and that. And I saw somebody sitting in front of a computer doing some work. I approached him and we gave him a book, and it was, I won't say the name, it was a famous devotee who had been and still is one of the best book distributors in the world. But he had gotten married and it got quite entangled, and he was doing business and it just shocked him so much that you're distributing a book to me. What's happening? Somebody's distributing a book to me. And he was distributing, and now he is again. Marriage didn't work out. So. Now he's totally absorbed in distributing books again. Many years now. Yeah, anytime, if we're not careful, if we don't keep that knowledge fresh in our mind, by reading the books, then we may find yourself on the other end, on the other side of the exchange, which is wonderful, because some of Krishna sends a devotee to pull us back out again. And it's Krishna's mercy that maybe we got lost. If we became proud, for instance, if pride overtakes us, because sometimes in book distribution you may become proud and think, just see how people are just falling at my feet and they're taking books right and left and to see how empowered I am, to see how great I am. And Krishna will make in such a way that you realize that it wasn't me. But he may have to do it in a strong way to get us to realize and understand that we're not the doer, we're not the controller, that we're just a servant, and by Krishna's mercy, we're being engaged to give out so many books. So we can realize that how Krishna's always taking care of us. He's always there in our heart. He's always following us if we get a little up, so he may put us back on the right path. We always have our free will, so we may misuse it in some way or another and get off the track. But it said that once you started on the path, then sooner or later, eventually, we'll come to the goal. But we don't want to take a lot of detours and go off the path, because that can mean lifetime. That can even mean we miss a whole lifetime, and then we have to suffer again in material life to learn the lesson that there's no happiness here. If we forget, and sometimes we think, sometimes we may be out and may think, I mean, these places were so degraded that we're going in these days. It's pretty hard to be thinking, wow, I'd really like to enjoy that. You have to be really Maya pretty heavily if you really think. But sometimes may happen, we see something attractive in mind. If we're not spiritually strong, we're not getting a strong taste in our spiritual practice in the morning, evening, then we may become attracted to some so-called nice. There's places where it looks like. Prabhupada even said he would visit the temple in Hawaii. Sometimes Prabhupada even stayed there for some time for translation. He said this is about as close as you can get to a heavenly planet on this planet. In fact, very few people become devotees there. Whereas in New York City, many people become devotees. It's like hellish planet. So is San Francisco. I'm from San Francisco. And any big city is a hellish condition. But if you go, I mean, I went just before I was a devotee. I stayed for a brief time. I met devotees in Hawaii, and it actually is heavenly. And you can live on the beach and pick fruits off the tree, and the water's warm, transparent. So you may think, it's not so bad here. Maybe I can enjoy something. But so therefore, it's good. It's better preaching in the hellish places. Sometimes the devotee is ready to go to any place and anywhere. He's in Krishna's hands. He's ready to go anywhere to distribute and give Krishna consciousness to people who may actually understand that they're suffering. When I've also spent some time in Puerto Rico, which is more or less like Hawaii. It's a tropical island. And when we would tell people, this is, you're suffering, which they take, I'm okay. Or in California, the response of everyone in California is, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm enjoying. Somehow I'm enjoying. But if you go in hellish places that are dark and there's so much anxiety, so much stress, so much, the horrible conditions, then it's a little easier for people. And it's easier for us to remember. That's why we used to distributing in New York City. I remember we would distribute in the bus station. And we just had one incident came into Port Authority. Remember Port Authority? Port Authority is a bus station in New York City. You can imagine New York City bus stations, thousands of people running in every direction. And devotees, somehow we had permission to distribute books there. And I remember one incident. And outside there's an area, it's called 42nd Street, where there are many prostitutes. And sometimes you would have young men that would be coming through from New Jersey, and I remember, I still remember this one. He was a young man. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna." We saw him. He said, "No, I don't have time. I'm gonna go enjoy. You know, I made some money, and now I'm gonna go enjoy prostitute." And then about an hour or two later, we saw the same guy coming back. I stopped and said, "What happened? What happened?" And he said, "Well, the prostitute invited him in and brought him up to the room and out from. And as soon as he got in the room, out of another door, this bad guy came out of another door, and he had just pulled his pants down, and he said, 'Now I'm really going to enjoy it.' And this other guy came out of the other door. Oh, took all his money, threw him out. I think he took a book on this way So sometimes these places where people are suffering. And, I saw a few cases like that in America. I remember doing some guy, same thing. He was like, "I'm going to enjoy." He went into some motel. You know, they always go to these motels for this business. And then I remember seeing, because we were staying there, because we would do traveling to Sankirtan. It was too cold to sleep in the van. We'd stay in a cheap hotel.
Hotel.
I think that was even before there was any hotels. They only cost $10 a night. And they were only supposed to be for one or two people, but then we would park our van in front of the entrance to the room, because you would go directly from the parking lot into the room. And then 5 brahmacharis, quick, bring our stove and bring all the boga and everything. Put the beds up on the wall, put the sheets out on them. And then, and I remember seeing that one guy like that. We saw him smiling, was going some prostitute to enjoy. And then I think after an hour or two, we saw him walking down the road. That's material enjoyment. And devotees should be convinced of that. There is no enjoyment. There is no happiness. There's no pleasure. And Krishna lets you see it. The examples regularly on Sankirtan. People, they have that anticipation of pleasure or enjoyment or happiness, and then Krishna lets you see them afterwards, and completely destroyed, completely miserable, completely frustrated. And so devotees can read, and if they're reading Bhagavad Gita, reading Srīmad Bhagavatam, then they can always be conscious, yes, there's no happiness in this material world, there's no pleasure in this material world, it's all temporary, and they can be convinced that we have the real deal, the real happiness, eternal happiness. And the more we're experiencing it ourselves by our strong practice of Krishna consciousness, then we'll be able to convince other people how this is real pleasure. I remember one devotee, he was the head of a particular devotee, he was always kind of very full of passion and energy, but not always so smart. And we were at a program, we were staying there for Sankirtan, and then it was like a yoga center or something. We paid some rent, for staying for traveling Sankirtan. And then they had a program on one Sunday, and they had, the program. This lady was, "Yeah, you're not happy, you don't know what to." And he said, "Well, you don't look very happy." Because he was like, so we shouldn't be preaching, you're not happy, out of our frustration, to try to say that, no, actually I'm doing the right thing, actually I'm happy. We should actually be happy, and the real happiness can come by our own chanting, our own hearing, our own practice of Krishna. The only real formula, sometimes they do what is that, what do you say, what do we do on Sankirtan, but the only real formula. Like I mentioned, and I still remember seeing you from, I think it was somewhere in New York, or a train station, or the airport, or somewhere. I remember watching you distribute downstairs. I said, and the other said, watch. You were just smiling. this smile, ecstatic smile, and people were just continually. Folks were going. That's the only real formula is by being really happy in Krishna consciousness, happy in our relations with devotees, happy in our service, and then people will be attracted. Oh, that's I want this. I want to find out what do you do? And I see you're peaceful, you're happy. You know, what is it all about? So give me the book. That's the only real secret, real way to distribute books whole lifetime.
Like you say, her line is goes up to people and says, "Wow, you're so happy, you're so effulgent. What's your secret?" People are imagining that they're happy. When you tell them, "Wow, what's your, you're so enlivened and so happy. How can I, is that right?"
Yeah. So I tell them, I said, "Excuse me, are you from around here?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I just saw you from distance. You look so happy. Like, what's the secret of your happiness?" And what? And they can't believe, that somebody on the street stops them and says things like that. And they just become too excited, and they tell me all kind of things. What makes them happy? I was like, "So, is this your vibe, or that just kind of makes you happy?" And they said, "This is my vibe. I like to be happy like this." And
I should say, we go to someone and say, "Sir, you look so spiritual, what do you do?" They say, "I play tennis." I knew it.
Today's seminar will be an exchange with all the devotees of how they're doing Sankirtan, what they're doing in their yatra, and exchanging suggestions from the other devotees how they can learn something to take home. Should be the seminar where we have something to take home back for yatra to increase and better our book distribution. So prepare something to contribute to the overall group. How you're doing Sankirtan, what are the new discoveries, innovations, like that, realization. And that's how we stay strong in Krishna consciousness. We are engaging our mind and making plans. Prabhupada said the mind is always making plans, but it's making plans for sense gratification. So you can't stop it from making plans. So it has to be always busy making plans. How am I going to become Krishna conscious, and how am I going to make plans how to spread Krishna consciousness? How am I going to improve my book distribution? And we should, each one of us has some realization like that. The more we're praying like that and be absorbed like that, then we have some realization, some experience that we should all share that. And go home with renewed enthusiasm, renewed determination to, even though we're not so many devotees, we're a small, we could say small group, but the potency. I remember maybe there was 50 devotees doing Sankirtan full time in Italy back in the 1980s. But the people were always saying, "But you're everywhere." I told this story the other day. My wife was distributing, would even go distribute in the wintertime in the ski places. Even where they would ski and come, when they hit the bottom and they come down and stop. Then give them a book. "I see you everywhere, you're even here." They never would imagine, we're far away up in the mountains. Sorry, Christians would stop me on the street all the time. And they surely won't. And sure enough, they're. So, but actually it was only about 50 devotees in the whole country, 60 million people. But the people wrote often, it was always see you everywhere. Because devotees are empowered by Krishna, empowered by Lord Chaitanya to to be everywhere, to spread Krishna consciousness with their enthusiasm.
Okay, so what time is it then? It's time to wait for prasadam. Maybe
We're late.
okay. Grandraj, Srīmad Bhagavatam, Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Okay, we keep the seva schedule like yesterday. Just in case anyone has a complaint, it would be changed with someone. You can approach me or Jaguranga Prabhu. And for the temple room cleaning, we would be suggesting a Harini procedure. Is that okay? Yeah. Not the other, just here. Yeah, like the. Yeah, maybe a little bit.
There's 10 petals on the floor. You know where we're going today?
Down to Malaga.
Bali? Not Bali. No.
They said they want to try to come because they heard that.
No, but you have to check with the that doesn't want to
He doesn't want them to do because they were telling him that it's allowed at the port and at the beachfront.
So then they have to stay there. Wherever they said that they're allowed, they can't. Yeah. Sometimes they do that. They burned out some places in Australia.
Don't you, Prabhu?